Today, technology allows for stunningly realistic images and allows the millions of gamers around the globe to enter complex worlds with engaging narratives and characters. We think of this as technological progress. There are also parts of these extraordinary new games that have me yearning for the simplicity of Pong.
Melissa Harris Perry is back. Let's play a clip of that. She doesn't like Darth Vader because he's black, and he isn't white till he becomes good. Well, that's because the Skywalkers are white. And it's because black projects power and is ominous and is strong. And historically, I mean, I got a black car, not because I'm like, I don't like black people. I got a black car because it looks good. Darth Vader wouldn't look good if he was pink, would he? Or if he was gray. He looks good because he's black. And he's got a black man's voice because it sounds good. I mean, this is just ridiculous, but this is how everything's racist. You know, if you say that Paul Ryan's a hard worker, that's putting down black slaves.
There's somebody who is a hard worker. When he goes to Washington is Paul Ryan. Not only works with the Republicans, but Democrats. You know very well that I work on the immigration issue, trying to get Republicans to support immigration reform. Paul Ryan is somebody who has supported immigration reform, has worked with somebody like Luis Gutierrez. Luis Gutierrez is very respectful, speaks highly of Paul Ryan. This is somebody who's trying to govern.
Alfonso, I feel you, but I just want to pause on one thing, because I don't disagree with you that I actually think Mr. Ryan is a great choice for this role. But I want us to be super careful when we use the language hard worker. Because, I mean, I actually keep an image of folks working in cotton fields on my office wall.
She attaches racism to every symbol, every word where she controls it. She is the ultimate control freak. We should reject this cult leader.
There are people out there who are taking welfare and, you know, they need it. And then there's other people out there who are taking welfare and could easily turn it away. There's all sorts of people in the world. And I think entitlements are we getting rid of? Every time we make an entitlement, we come up with reasons why we can't get rid of that. Which is enabled by taking risks. And that was the big thing that was missing from the
What is riskier than living poor in America? Seriously, what in the world is riskier than being a poor person in America? I live in a neighborhood where people are shot on my street corner. I live in a neighborhood where people have to figure out how to get their kid into school because maybe it'll be a good school and maybe it won't. I am sick of the idea that being wealthy is risky. No, there is a huge safety net that whenever you fail will catch you and catch you and catch you. Being poor is what is risky. We have to create a safety net for poor people, and when we won't because they happen to look different from us, it is the pervasive ugliness.
It is. Well, there's this other side. There's the other side that, in fact, small business owners do take risk, of course, and we need a public policy.
That's what makes entrepreneurs different from other smart, hardworking people. And my point was that was what's missing.
You would, in fact, still want to take those risks.
I don't think that's the thought process of the small business owner that makes $250,000 a year. We've lost 220,000 small businesses in the last 10 years. We're mixing apples and oranges. We're talking about people that are super wealthy and putting the policies that should affect them on real people who are just trying.
You're right. Small business is different than being capital.
So much. Also, I just have to show these. My producer Lorena made for me last week some tampon earrings because, of course, you'll remember that the Texas state legislature said that you couldn't bring tampons in when they were going these women to, in fact, stand up for their own reproductive rights. You weren't allowed to initially to bring tampons. So just in case that ever happens again, ladies, you can just bring them on your earrings. And just so you know, we are now going to turn the page a bit and do something.
And ladies, I love to leave out important context in my reporting. I'm going to pretend like tampons were not initially allowed in student galleries because Texas is mean and hates women and menstrual cycles. I'm going to conveniently not mention that abortion activists were planning on throwing projectiles at pro-life senators. Security guards confiscated jars of pee, poop, bricks, tampons, and pads. But this doesn't fit my political agenda. What do tampons have to do with abortions? There is absolutely no connection. Nothing says I have a serious and educated position on this legislative bill like wearing tampons on your ears.
Everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, and you have to point it all out.
Sex objects, sexual objectification,
sex objects,
and sexually objectifying,
sex objects,
sexual object,
sex object, sex objects.
Sexual objectification contributes to a culture where sexual violence isn't taken seriously.
So we go into parties and we know where we are in the pretty girl pecking order, and when another woman is valued for being a sex object, it actually makes us feel bad about ourselves.
Pong. Created in 1969, it was the first popular video game many people ever saw. Heralded as a milestone, this primitive little game helped launch a multi-billion-dollar industry. Today, technology allows for stunningly realistic images and allows the millions of gamers around the globe to enter complex worlds with engaging narratives and characters. We think of this as technological progress. There are also parts of these extraordinary new games that have me yearning for the simplicity of Pong. Now, I want to warn you, I'm about to show some images that can be disturbing and that are not suitable for the youngest Nerdland viewers. So take a look behind me. These images are all from popular video games played by millions of people, and they feature women in troubling, violent, and dehumanizing ways. In this scene, a group of men howl and cheer a scantily clad stripper in Hitman Absolution. Here, a woman is repeatedly slapped in the game Far Cry 3. Here, a woman lays dead and apparently irrelevant in this image from Mafia 2, Joe's Adventures. The games are fantasy, but the threat of violence, all too real for one woman who dared to say enough.
There's so many different sexist tropes in video games, but on the other hand, saying that there's sexism in video games to me is like saying there's sexism in you know, popular studio films that come out of Hollywood. I mean, of course there's sexism in them, there's sexism in society as well, but
other than their names, how do we know that the collection of pixels on the right signal male while those on the left indicate female? Well, in order to differentiate Ms. Pacman from her already world-famous counterpart, her creators added a series of stereotypical design elements. With only a few pixels to work with, designers built on top of the original Pacman template, adding a red bow, red lipstick, an eye with makeup, long lashes, and a mole as beauty mark. Even though Ms. Pacman is essentially a personified shape, in promotional materials she's presented in high heels with long legs, jewelry, and sometimes a feather boa.
The sexism in some video games and sexism in society, I think it goes the opposite way. I think that video games and films reflect the sexism that's already in society, and not all video games and films are sexist, but there's certainly some tropes that are, and there's some that aren't, and you know, you can find them if you look for them. So I think there is some cherry picking, but I'm not going to be someone who denies the sexism in society. I mean, I don't mind people who try to rebut her arguments and show that she's not very academic, or that some of her claims don't make logical sense. And one of her claims about the connection between sexism in videos and sexism in society, you know, that it causes sexism in society. I mean, I don't really see the connection between what happens in video games, and I mean, I think it goes the other way, if anything, that video games reflect society, just like films reflect society. And that's the second clip I want to show from Anita Sarkeesian, where Melissa Harris Perry basically asks her, you know, are you going to support people who say the video game made me do it? And Anita Sarkeesian says, well, it's not a one-on-one thing, but I do think that that media matters and it shapes us. But then you'll see she totally turns around by the end of her answer there and actually is saying that it's more a reflection of our society, which is my point that I'll make again after I show you that Anita Sarkeesian clip here.
Final question. So many times when bad things do happen, you will hear this kind of low level, the games made me do it. How can you how do we do a reasonable, smart pop culture critique without just turning into the games made me do it in terms of violence?
Right, right. Yeah, you know, I am definitely not advocating that there's a one-to-one correlation at all, but I do this work because I think that media matters, right? I think that the media helps to shape our attitudes and beliefs and value systems. And so what does it say about, you know, our society when the primary means of conflict resolution in most of these major games are about violence?
Anita?
What it says is we live in a violent society, and our video games and our films and all of our media are going to reflect the violence of our society. It's not that society wasn't violent in the past, but our media is even more hyper-focused on violence than it used to be, and we allow our media to show a lot more violent things than we used to. And
indicates that one of the primary ways we learn about the world and our relationships to each other is through a process of observation and imitation.
Okay, now, a couple of years ago you were saying,
likewise, engaging with these games is not going to magically transform players into raging sexists. We typically don't have a monkey see, monkey do direct cause and effect relationship with the media we consume.
but now you're saying...
Social science indicates that one of the primary ways we learn about the world and our relationships to each other is through a process of observation and imitation.
But a couple of years ago you were saying...
Likewise, engaging with these games is not going to magically transform players into raging sexists. We typically don't have a monkey see, monkey do direct cause and effect relationship with the media we consume.
You know that they're being sexist. Somehow women aren't up in arms. They aren't organizing protests and boycotts and online campaigns. You see, they know that I know that they know. So how many examples of retrosexism have you already seen today? They know that I know that they know that they're being sexist.
Because like when you start learning about systems, everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, and you have to point it all out.
Everything is sexist, everything's offensive to people like me. Let's go through the checklist, it's all misogyny. Everything is sexist when you break attention. Doesn't matter how absurd or desperate, forget about merits. We're oppressed every day, what you say, it's a white supremacy. Everything is sexist, everything's a gender conspiracy. Everything is sexist, it's the patriarchy.